Welcome back to From the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. It is Wednesday, March 18th of 2026. I am David Weaver, host of the podcast, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, pastor of Friendship Baptist Church in Marshall, Texas, and the sports director of KMHT 103.9 FM, the heartbeat of East Texas. Matt Paul, the pastor himself, is joining us again today. Matt, how was your evening last night?
That was good. Cooked dinner with the wife, and then had to clean the kitchen afterward, and we were both about ready for bed after that. So, but no, it was good. Saw a little bit of basketball, a little bit of the women's tournament yesterday, but mostly it was kind of nice to lay low, maybe watch a sitcom, and
it does kind of feel that way coming off of the big weekend that we had, right? I mean, we love basketball and we love watching sports, but sometimes that Monday after, it's kind of like okay, let's catch our breath kind of deal, right?
For sure.
So, but anyway, we do have a full show here. You mentioned the women's tournament. We're going to get right into it here with our on-campus segment.
Connecting students to their passion and equipping them for their purpose. East Texas Baptist University is a Christ-centered institution committed to challenging and encouraging each student in mind, body, and spirit. With over 45 undergraduate programs and 14 master's degrees, ETBU's educational experience enables you to discover your purpose, find your path, and pursue your calling. Join the Tiger family today. It's not too late. Apply today at etbu.edu/apply.
And we're going to lead off, as we promised yesterday, with our the women's Sweet 16, of course, is now set. They did play their final round of 32 games, of course, on Monday evening. Matt, what were some things you saw here in the first couple of rounds of the ladies' tournament? Again, we were overwhelmingly, I think you and I both on our brackets have played it safe for the most part, which is probably the best thing of just picking number ones to get to the Final Four. And I don't think anything really changed much over the weekend, did it?
Yeah, I mean, the women's bracket, not surprisingly, is very chalky. I mean, men's is too, but you had a 6-seed advance, you had a 10-seed advance, and then you had a 5, and everything else was 1, 2, 3, 4. But kind of flying under the radar, some really good games in the second round. Minnesota beating Ole Miss in a 4-5 matchup on a buzzer beater. TCU, the 3 being taken to overtime by the 6, Washington. Louisville beating Alabama, a 3-6 matchup by 1 point. The 10-seed Virginia upsetting the 2-seed Iowa in double overtime. Kentucky over West Virginia, that's a 5 over a 4 by 1 point. I mean, you had a lot of tight competitive games already in the second round, which is, I think, what you want to see when you have a tournament like this. The biggest difference in the women's and the men's is, we saw some 1 seeds in the second round get pushed in the men's. Arizona got a battle from Utah State before pulling away late. Of course, Florida lost their matchup to Iowa. Duke was behind to TCU at the half. Or at least early second half. So, you had these teams getting battles in the men's. And the women's side, let's see, the 1 seed UConn beat Syracuse by 53. The 1 seed UCLA beat Oklahoma State by 19. The 1 seed Texas beat Oregon by 42. This is just kind of what you expect to see. I believe there's the 1 seed South Carolina beat USC by 40. So you didn't have any 1 seeds getting sniffed, and the highest 2 seeds, really, the one that would stand out the most was LSU. To me, they beat the 7 seed Texas Tech by 54. So, your elite teams are still your elite teams, right? And they're not getting sniffed yet. Now, will that change as we move to the Sweet 16? I don't expect UConn to get a battle from North Carolina. We'll see. Duke LSU, a 2-3 matchup, could be a really good one, I think, on Friday night. UCLA having to play Minnesota. At least that's a team that's seen them in their conference. So maybe interested to see how Texas and Kentucky goes. Kentucky with some familiarity there in the SEC, and Kentucky may have been like the 7th or 8th best team in the SEC, but like you and I talked about, that still puts you in the top 15 in the country. So we'll see how that goes. You got the same deal with Oklahoma playing South Carolina 1-4. And then really interested in that Louisville-Michigan matchup 2-3. I think that could be a good one. So I think you've got you have 3 of the 4 number 1 seeds are playing a team that they should beat, but it's a team from their conference. And so sometimes that familiarity, the way that plays out, it could be a little more competitive than you would expect. So I'm curious to see how it goes.
I think it's an advantage for Texas in that, and I agree with you, but it's definitely an advantage for them getting to play in Fort Worth. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yes. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'm looking at it. Let's see. We had 6 SEC teams advance to the Sweet 16, which is not a shocker. You and I have talked at length about the depth of that conference, but of course, 4 of them are playing against each other. So, you can't have 6 advance. You can only have 4 advance to the Elite 8. Other than that, the Big Ten had, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Looks like they had 3 in there with Michigan and then Minnesota playing against UCLA. The ACC has a lot in there. They have Notre Dame, North Carolina, Duke, Louisville, and Virginia. So the ACC put 5. The SEC and ACC combined for 11 of the Sweet 16.
Yeah, pretty much playing out for the most part the way I have it on my bracket for sure. And again, you and I kind of talked about this last week, and I mean, shout out to our UConn followers out there. We've gotten quite a debate going on our YouTube channel with really our bold prediction. I'm going to call it bold. I mean, as bold as it can be to pick the Lady Huskies of winning another national championship. They still are the class above everyone else in this field, and I'm as big a Texas fan as anyone. And the Longhorns are playing well, but that's a huge behemoth coming at you from up there in Connecticut. No
doubt.
And so I've seen nothing to this point that would waver me from that prediction. They're just too good right now. They're just playing too well.
Yeah, I would agree.
There have been some really a wave of coaching changes, Matt. I know you've been following those for us, and it always, and I go back to, of course, he's not really one of them, but I go back to the High Point coach last week, and we were kind of joking back and forth via text after they put off the big upset over Wisconsin about how, he was so laser focused and really brought out some really good points about the whole scheduling thing and majors scheduling these mid majors in the season. But in this wave of coaching changes we've seen over the last week or so, I mean, the truth comes out. I mean, these mid major coaches for the most part, are grabbing these majors jobs. They're and I get it. I mean, you where you are and bloom where you're planted and all of that. But when one of these bigger places comes calling, you almost have to take that job, right?
Yeah. And before I hop into coaching changes, do you happen to hear Matt Painter, the Purdue coach, kind of fire back at? So not only the High Point coach, but the Miami of Ohio coach have really griped they were unable to find high-level opponents. And Matt Painter, of course, Purdue's right in the central of where that Miami of Ohio conference is, right? The MAC. And Painter made some really good points, I thought. He said, look, we get 11 non-conference games. It's going to go to 12 next year. He said we try to schedule 6 against major opponents and 5 against mid-major opponents. And he said, look, you're looking at the net ratings of the previous year and the projected net ratings. He said, he even said it. He said, any coach who's not looking at last year's net ratings and the projected net ratings when they make their schedule is a bozo. They're not paying attention. And he said, we played 2 MAC teams last year. This past year, we played Akron and Toledo. He said, Akron has been the class of that league for the last couple of years. Toledo has been very competitive. In fact, Toledo was in the conference championship game against Akron this year. he's and without saying it, what he said was, look, we can't be sitting here saddled with a bunch of quad 4 games. So we're trying to find the best teams in these conferences. And essentially what he said without saying it is, don't blame us if you outperformed your metrics one year and you're not a very consistent program. That's what he's saying. If Miami, Ohio is winning 25 games a year, guess what? Teams like Purdue and Michigan, they're going to schedule them because they feel like they can beat them, but they also know it's not going to drag down their metrics. But when one year you're 16 and 18, and then another year they're not going to risk it. And so I thought that was a really valid point there. Now High Point's a little different because this is back-to-back 30 win years for High Point. They've been really good. In fact, if I'm one of those East Coast teams like Duke or North Carolina or whatever, like, go schedule High Point. Yeah, you might lose it, but it's probably not going to hurt you. And if you win it, it's going to look pretty good.
Yeah, and look, this is not only limited to basketball. I mean, we see this and we've talked about it. The changes that are really coming that we can see in football.
Yeah,
with it's just not on the football side of it. It's not really good to schedule someone on a pay to play basis. Where you're going to bring let's just say if you're Texas and you're bringing a really good, and they're not good right now, but just say UTEP, right? And when they come to play Texas, they get paid to go play Texas. You're not going to get that offer if you're really any good. And
no,
it's kind of the same thing in basketball. What we're talking about here, but it's just being presented with different language, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and it is different in the sense that, let's look at James Madison and Tulane, right? They were in the playoff this year in football. And that wasn't a shock that those two teams were good. They've been good for a few years. You want to know who LSU's not going to schedule? Tulane. You look over there at some teams that are usually good on the East Coast and kind of in that the Smoky Mountain region, like maybe a Tennessee or somebody like that. You want to know who they're not going to schedule? James Madison. Because in basketball, if you lose to a really good mid-major, it's not going to kill you. In football, that loss, your margin becomes razor thin now if you want to make the playoff. So it's going to be a little different there. But in basketball, they look at the metrics so closely. And I thought that was curious. I'm anxious to see what develops with that. But you're right on these coaching changes, the mid-majors. I mean, I'm sitting here staring at a handful of them that it's already happened, and I think there's more on the way. I've got somewhat close to Tar Heel Blue on today. I'm not going to be surprised if they're in the market by the end of this week.
I've seen some reports again on Twitter, and again, these are not verified at all, as a lot of what's on Twitter or X, that it's a done deal.
Yeah,
that is definitely going down. They are going to get rid of Hubert Davis, and then of course, who do they go get? Right? It's a domino effect, and that is always interesting when these blue bloods open up and pieces get moved around the board and that's kind of the thing that's fun to talk about. I mean, it really is the coaching carousel every season in every sport, for sure. I had a little bit of as we were talking about this, and it hit home for me several years ago, when I was sports information director at ETBU. We in men's basketball, we could schedule an exhibition, and go play a D1 team and get paid, right? I mean, we would schedule Northwestern State, my alma mater, and Coach West knew Coach McConaughey at the time. Mike McConaughey was coach at Northwestern, from the Louisiana ranks, and so we go down there, we play them for a few years, and was an exhibition for us. I think it was actually a game for them. They could count it, but we couldn't count it as a D1. We could call it an exhibition. I think they paid us enough to get new uniforms and fed us some crawfish or something. I can't remember what it was, but we got treated. But anyway, it was all fine and dandy until we go down there one year, and I think we had a possession at the end to actually win the game. And we never got scheduled again after that. And that's just kind of how that works. I mean, if you're good enough to beat me, I'm not going to be as open to paying you to come to my place and beat me.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that stops. But I think you hit it on the head when you explained it with the metrics. Now it's like, if you can benefit me and I'm not too hurt by a loss, sure, I'll schedule you and I'll come play you at your place even. But it's like when Miami of Ohio is good once every 4 years, it's really not worth the risk.
It's not. And I'm curious to see what happens with some of these coaches. Like you mentioned, we've already seen some of them plucked, but like the guy from Miami of Ohio, the guy from High Point, I think the biggest news, couple of kind of under the radar moves, the Utah State coach going to Cincinnati, which he had coached at Youngstown State, so he's from Ohio. Utah State loses their coach every couple of years and still makes the tournament every year. It's a phenomenal program. St. Mary's coach going to Arizona State. That St. Mary's coach kind of built that program. They're not Gonzaga, but they're kind of a perennial power there. That coach had been at St. Mary's since, my goodness, I want to say he's been there nearly 20 years. They won 20 games in 18 of the last 19 seasons. So you kind of wondered when you're there that long, is he just going to stay there? And now he's taken a leap into the Big 12 with Arizona State. What does that mean for St. Mary's? When your only successful identity is that coach, well, that's a big hire. And that is going to have an impact on Gonzaga, because Gonzaga's strength of schedule, they always do good in the non-conference, but they always know in their conference there's at least going to be a couple of teams that can keep it afloat. Is St. Mary's going to continue to be that? This is a big hire for them. I think in the most obvious hire of the week, the Siena coach, Jerry McNamara, who I remember watching, was a fun player to watch at Syracuse, now hired at Syracuse. They bring him home. John Shire of Duke came out and said after the game, McNamara outcoached him in that game as Siena pushed Duke to the brink. So I think it's a really good hire and an obvious hire for Syracuse. I think that will work out. But I am glued to see what North Carolina is going to do, because here's the thing. We've talked about these other teams. You know who North Carolina can't go get? They can't go get the High Point coach. They can't go get a mid-major, even if he's been successful. North Carolina's got to try to get Mark Few to leave Gonzaga. I don't know what he would. They've got to try to get Hurley or Golden to leave Connecticut or Florida. I don't know why they would. North Carolina is going to be really, really curious to me to see what they're able to get. I feel like they're maybe going to have to get a coach who has been successful, not like Hurley successful, but successful in a power conference at a place you maybe wouldn't expect. Maybe try to get the Iowa State coach. Maybe try to get Nate Oates from Alabama. Something along those lines, because the Hurley and Golden, you're swinging for the fences, but those dudes won national titles at big programs. I don't know if that's going to work. So we'll see, but that's going to be really curious to watch to me.
The only way you can get them is to money whip them.
Yep. And North Carolina struggled, but let's face it. If you look at a program like Iowa State, you look at a program like Alabama, they've been really successful these last few years. But historically, in basketball, Iowa State and Alabama cannot hold a candle to the University of North Carolina. And so Connecticut and Florida, at least over the last few decades, can. But those schools can't. So that does still have some allure for you, I think. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. I'm just anxious to see. I look at Hoiberg at Nebraska, who's clearly put them on the map, and would he be a possibility as well? I feel like he's a perfect fit where he is. But what would be crazy to me is if the Iowa State coach were to go to North Carolina and then Iowa State's open where Fred Hoiberg played, and then do they go after him from Nebraska? And then where does all that, and does Nebraska crash back down as soon as they built up? Like it's going to be really fun to watch that. Maybe as fun as it is to watch the tournament at this point.
I'm just grateful that this is happening a year later and Sean Miller is not out there. Go get. I think he would be a good fit there as well.
He would.
But we don't win a whole lot at Texas in basketball, but it's an attractive job just for everything that goes with it.
Well, and you mentioned,
but if North Carolina came calling,
yeah. And I didn't want to mention it because I didn't want to put a damper on your Sweet 16 party there. But, if Sean Miller and Texas had blown that game to North Carolina State in the play-in game, we're probably not even considering it. I mean, he's still trying to figure it out at Texas, blah, blah, blah. Now he's got him in the Sweet 16. And look, that Texas team is good, don't get me wrong, but you look at that Texas team compared to some of these other Sweet 16 teams, and you're like, how are they there? I'll tell you how. Sean Miller is how they're there, and that's going to be attractive to teams that are looking for a coach.
He eats the Sweet 16s for breakfast.
Yeah, he does.
He really does. Good stuff there, partner. Thanks a lot for that. Let's move on to our high school, local high school portion of the program this morning. We do want to thank East Texas Baptist University for being the sponsor of our on-campus segment. As always, we do appreciate the folks out at ETBU, special to both of us, and we appreciate your support.
This episode of the Right Team Podcast is also brought to you by Stiles Electric. For over 25 years, Stiles Electric has been providing reliable, professional electrical installation and repair service all throughout East Texas and beyond. We specialize in industrial and commercial projects of all sizes. We are proud to be a part of our communities and schools here in East Texas. Contact us today at 903-236-2536. That's Stiles Electric, reliable, professional, and experienced.
Let's talk about Beast Texas for a few minutes here. And of course, I want to thank Stiles Electric for sponsoring the high school section for us on the program. I want to remind everyone, I don't know if you follow us on Facebook, hopefully you do, because we do put some content up there that you won't hear on the podcast. But I have put up all the schedules for all the baseball and softball action locally up there, with a little caveat there. If you do hear, or if you're at a game and you have a player on either baseball or softball that has a really good night statistically and does something, please let us know in the comments of those schedules. We'd love to mention that on our podcast tomorrow, if we can get that information from you. So moms and dads or coaches out there, if you're listening, help us out with some of that stuff, and let's get your kids recognized here on our podcast. We would love to be able to do that on Wednesday mornings if we can. Going around some area colleges here just briefly before, and I did want to kind of give an update on the soccer playoffs that are actually in the area around this week. ETBU softball, Matt, had a little bit of a dip there when they went to that big tournament there in Georgia, the NFCA Leadoff Classic, and took a couple of losses in that tournament. But man, they have gotten back on the horse, so to speak. 8 straight wins coming off of a big weekend this past weekend for down with the conference opener in Belton against Mary Hardin Baylor.
Yeah, and a little dip. I mean, 4-2 when half the teams you're playing are nationally ranked. You'll take that anytime. One of their losses was to the number 1 team in the nation. A couple of things that are standing out to me about this ETBU softball squad. I'll be brief, but they also went down to Florida and played some high competition. And in their first game, they were trailing 4-2 in the 7th inning, bottom of the 7th. And freshman Piper may be a JUCO transfer. First year, she's a first year player for ETBU. I want to make sure
She is a transfer, but
Right,
she
yeah.
originally from Western West.
Yeah. Hits a 3-run walk-off bomb to come back and win it 5-4. Fast forward to this past weekend where they are opening up conference play in Belton against Mary Hardin Baylor. It's the top of the 6th inning, and it's 1-0. Like it's anybody's ball game. It's hard fought. UMHB's going with them toe to toe. And this one is a freshman, their new freshman shortstop, Emma Boren, who is, all she's having to do is fill in for Tristan Maddox and fill those shoes, the 2-time National Player of the Year. She launches a 2-run homer to kind of put that game away. They take a 4-1 victory, and she kind of took their heart because then they beat UMHB 12-0 in the next game. And it just shows me when I see these first-year players for ETBU that are making this impact, it's like we talked about this, they don't rebuild, they reload. And here they are in a quote-unquote rebuilding season, and they're 21-3. Having played a lot of good competition. And they're 21-3. Shout out to Coach Shirley. As always, it's shaping up to be another great season.
This team reminds me a lot, and folks who don't have a history at ETBU or following softball won't really understand this reference. And Coach Shirley's going to hate me for saying this because it's going to appear like I'm jinxing them, and I'm putting my reputation on the line when I say this. Reminds me a lot of the 2011 team that was coming off of the national championship the year before, had to lost some key pieces to that, and came back and just swept and actually won the ASC championship that year. And so, yeah, I mean, good programs do this. You rarely see, I mentioned dip, but you rarely see dips in seasons, like in record wise, like they're right back to where they were and expected to be, probably playing a little bit above expectations right now, but 21-3 is nothing to sneeze at, especially with the schedule they've played and the travel they've done. They will be back home this weekend, of course. It'll be a neat little rivalry resumption here with former conference foe and area rival Laterno, with a doubleheader that starts at 12 o'clock there at Taylor Field. So come on out and watch the Tigers take that 21-3 mark against Laterno, which made a move to the SCAC this year. And so, but they are going to resume that rivalry in a non-conference fashion on Saturday. ETBU baseball also been on a bit of a roll here lately. They are now 15-7 on the year. The Tigers under Coach Jared Hood have now won 8 of their last 9. And that includes a pretty big weekend series that they had this past weekend, Matt. I don't know if you followed this, but on Friday they knocked off number 8 Texas Lutheran there at Field at ETBU with a 13-7, just an outburst there offensively. And they followed that up with one of these weird doubleheader things that appears it went on. But anyway, the second game of the night was against Wooster, Ohio. The Tigers lose that one 3-0, but then they come back on Saturday and ease to a really exciting 6-5 win over Wooster. So they take 2 out of 3 from those two teams that were visiting Marshall this weekend.
Yeah, and you mentioned TLU being voted or being number 8. Wooster was receiving votes. They were 13-4. Wooster actually making kind of a Texas two-step trip. They've been down to Georgetown and played, I think, Southwestern maybe, and now they come up here. I'm sure, I don't know for sure. I would be shocked if Wooster didn't play TLU since they were both there at some point this weekend. Yeah, it's good stuff for ETBU baseball. They've really kind of righted the ship. I was a little worried, and I think it just really said more about Belhaven than it did about ETBU. The Belhaven swept the Tigers early on. Belhaven's a top 10 team now. They just have continued to roll. But you take away that sweep, and the Tigers are 15-4 on the season. That's nothing to sneeze at right there.
They do play this evening as we record this on Tuesday, March 24th. They are actually, we spoke of Laterno. They are going to Longview to play the Yellow Jackets over in Longview. Again, just a great rivalry with a history there in all sports between ETBU and Laterno, separated by about 20 minutes here in Texas. And then they return also home this weekend, a big weekend going on at ETBU with a 3-game series against Maryville College out of Tennessee. And so I'll actually be out there working the softball games this weekend. So looking forward to that. It's been a while, been over a month since I've actually got the work game out there. They haven't been home enough to do a whole lot of it. So anyway,
16 consecutive on the road at one point.
So anyway, those things are going on out at East Texas Baptist University, which again is a sponsor of our podcast. And we always want to give a shout out to the Tigers and what's going on out there. Really good athletic department and have the athletic director of the year actually out there in Ryan Irwin. We did mention that, I believe, last week on the podcast.
Yes, we did.
Let's return back here very quickly to the high school ranks. I did want to mention again the soccer playoffs that are ongoing. Again, these teams are in the area rounds. We did have some area teams that did not advance past by district, but had quite a few here on the boys' side, Matt. In 4AD1 in Region 2, Kilgore, which is 21-1-1 on the season, will be taking on Paris tonight in an area matchup at 6 o'clock there in Pleasant Grove. Also in 4AD1, Athens, which is 20-3 on the year, is facing Palestine in a somewhat regional matchup here, 22-3-1 for the Wildcats. That match is being played tonight at 7:30 in Lindale. 4AD2, you have Center taking on Pittsburgh tonight in Hallsville at 7:30. Van versus Madisonville at 6 o'clock tonight in Jacksonville. We had some 5AD2 teams, Matt, I couldn't find any information on as far as schedules that are going on. Jacksonville will be playing Liberty. Mount Pleasant is taking on Wakeland. And then 6AD2, same thing. Longview is taking on Mesquite. But I could not locate any information on the bracket about when those games are being played. 3 games from area schools in the girls. 4AD1, you got Lindale taking on Kilgore this evening at 7 o'clock at Tyler Legacy High School. Also in 4AD1, this game was actually played last night at Rose Stadium with Bullard shutting out Pine Tree 2-0. So Bullard moves on to the state quarterfinals. And then in the 5AD2, Jacksonville is taking on Wakeland. After a pretty good matchup going on at 5:30 tonight at Ennis. Jacksonville comes into that one, Matt, with a 20-1 record on the season, while Wakeland is undefeated, 22-0. So something got to get tonight. There's your soccer playoffs again going on in our area. I know we haven't talked a whole lot about soccer going on. For one thing, Matt and I don't know a whole lot about soccer, and so it's never really good. And I've learned this in broadcasting and doing this podcast. Sometimes it's best to not say anything when you don't know a whole lot about what you're talking about.
Yep. That's why I like leaving it with the brackets and the scores so that you know what's going on, and then we leave it at that, because all we're doing there is sharing facts, right?
Yeah, I can read pretty good. And
yes.
And so, or sometimes I can. Anyway, there is your little soccer section here on Beast Texas. Also want to thank once again Stiles Electric for making that little segment that we do locally possible.
Did you know that someone somewhere is talking about you? Yes, your school district, your business, your church, your nonprofit group is always the subject of a conversation somewhere. Maybe it's Facebook gossip, maybe it's talk around the water cooler, maybe it's written in a newspaper or a blog somewhere. At Right Team Services, we work with you to manage that conversation more effectively, to give all of your stakeholders an opportunity to hear your message. We help you create a culture of transparency in your organization that makes your customers and stakeholders feel comfortable as part of the story, and as a result, will help your business or school district become a more effective, trusted member of your community. Contact me today at rightteamservices@gmail.com to learn more about how Right Team can help you tell your story.
Move on here and talk a little bit about the pro game, which is what we like to call Moneyball here. This segment of our program, again, sponsored by Right Team Services. I kind of broke this down, Matt, into, of course, the 3 majors that we talk about here for the most part. Let's start with the NFL. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Now, I understand he played for the Seahawks, of course, defending world champs and everything. But I do not follow the Seahawks in my journeys with the NFL. Did not realize he had the type of season that he had, and that's on me. Again, that's one of those things where don't talk about something you don't know. But set career highs in receptions, 119, receiving yards, 793, and he had 10 touchdown catches, of course, in leading the Seahawks to the Super Bowl victory. He signed his new deal yesterday at a record-setting average of about $42.15 million per year, over $120 million guaranteed. It is the richest contract ever signed by a wide receiver in NFL history. And you say, what are you mentioning Jackson Smith and Jigba's contract on an East Texas podcast? Well, yes, I am a Cowboys fan. And of course, as we all know, the Cowboys put George Pickens on the franchise tag, which brings with it about a little bit over $27 million a year for this upcoming season price tag. Already got CD Lamb under contract, which CD now was just a couple of years ago when he signed that deal. He was just behind Justin Jefferson at $34 million a year, and I think he's now 6th or 7th on that list. All of this to say, George Pickens has just about been priced out of what the Cowboys, I believe, can comfortably afford. I mean, I feel comfortable saying that. So they're looking at probably one of two things. Number one, you let him play on the tag, pay him $28 million, knowing you either can tag him again next year, which would probably cause all kinds of problems in his camp, or you get what you can now and you go trade him. And again, this is the way the Cowboys do business. They're always a step behind the curve.
Yeah.
If you make this deal last summer and you extend George Pickens, or even at the end of the season prior to free agency, you get him signed to a multi-year deal, but over the next in these negotiations, I mean, if I'm his agent, I don't come in and say, okay, we're not signed for anything less than $40 million, because that's what the market is set at now. Jackson Smith and Jigba is in his 4th year, and he's getting this now. Somebody's going to be paying George Pickens that money, and I don't think the Cowboys can afford it without, doing the unthinkable, in my opinion, and moving CD instead.
Yeah, and it'll be curious. Look, JSN was the best receiver in the NFL this year. I'm not saying he is currently the best in general, but for the season, he was the best receiver statistically. Not only that, but this isn't meant as slander, but look, if I had a choice of Dak Prescott throwing to me or Sam Darnold, I'm taking Dak Prescott. So apparently it doesn't matter who you put in there at quarterback for JSN. He's elite. Not only that, he comes from what is essentially wide receiver U right now, and that is Ohio State. The next great prospect's going to come from there too, I believe, with Jeremiah Smith. So I do think, yeah, it's tough. You could have locked him down earlier, and I could see Pickens saying you should pay me as much as him, and I'm like, no, you weren't as good as him. You were great this year, but for a lot of the year, CD was out. You were the only option, and you still didn't, with a better quarterback, weren't as productive as this guy was. And so, but you're right. Like, the market's been set. We saw the Cowboys fall behind with CD, and then they ended up having to pay what they paid. We saw them fall behind with Dak, and then they end up having to pay what they paid. And but I'll tell you right now, if he wants a certain amount and I've got to choose between CD Lamb and George Pickens, as good as George Pickens was this year, it's still an easy choice for me. It's CD Lamb.
Yeah. It's easier finding a number 2 than it is a number 1. And I've already got my number 1, and I've locked him up. And CD has his faults, but I believe he's a better all-around wide receiver than George Pickens is. I just, he can do a lot more different things, and I would rather have him on my roster rather than pay, $75 to $80 million tied up in 2 wide receivers, not to mention the 55 to 60 million you're going to pay your quarterback. You can't build a roster that way. But again, the Cowboys are always playing catch up in these things. You routed off CD, you routed off Dak, you routed off Pickens. Throw Micah Parsons in there. They waited and they waited and they waited until the market priced them out of it. And at some point, we're not going to go down this road because we don't have time, and we've beaten it to death. But anyway, he got his bag. JSN got his bag yesterday. Kudos to him. But Pickens is about to get his from somewhere because of it. Okay, and I did want to mention one other thing here in the NFL, and I actually wanted to talk about it yesterday on my back page, but we were running long, and so we got out of here. But so this is a couple of days old, but did you see what Cam Scadaboo said in an interview over the weekend?
I heard he had to apologize for something. I didn't look into it. I know it was about CTE, but no, I did not see the exact thing he said.
He appeared on the Bring the Juice podcast and was asked directly whether he thinks CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, is real. And Scadaboo said this, and I quote, "No, it's an excuse." And he also, unprompted, brought out that he thinks asthma is an excuse. This was done late last week, I think. Well, as of course these things go, 24 hours later, he had to post an apology. Well, he did apologize, saying it was a tasteless joke, not intending to downplay the seriousness of head injuries or asthma. I've never had asthma, but I've never really thought of it as being an excuse. It's definitely a real medical condition. I think CTE, 10 years ago, it was up for debate. I've kind of come over to the side with the evidence we have that it is a real thing. Obviously, the NFL wouldn't have spent millions and millions upon bringing these safety measures into place with these helmets and all that kind of stuff. But of all people to say that CTE isn't real, Cam Scadaboo, of all people to have that opinion. I mean, look, this guy exploded on the scene. Nobody knew who Cam Scadaboo was prior to 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When he had that magical run, and I'll give him that, at Arizona State, and almost single-handedly beat Texas there in the CFP. But I mean, look, the way this guy started his NFL career, I mean, just a horrible ankle injury that ended his season last year. But his style of play is going to have him out of the league within 5, in my opinion. And it's probably going to be because of head injuries, the way he is just a battering ram. I wouldn't be making fun of CTE or at this point in his career. He needs to stay off podcasts, for one thing.
Yeah, I mean, he can get on ours if he wants, but yeah, he probably needs.
I'm bringing him on here. That would be great to have him on our podcast. Not really, but I still remember how he almost beat us that day, and I really don't want to have any part of him. I was glad to get out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium that day. Man, what a day he had. Move on to baseball here, and I just wanted to remind everyone, if you've been sleeping under a rock, that opening day is upon us. We get our first baseball game of the season that actually counts on Wednesday night. It's going to be a Netflix production, of course, and I don't know how I feel about that. Everything's going to streaming. We're going to be so priced out of these stuff. Let's just say everything's becoming a pay-per-view right now because baseball now is moving to Netflix. But
hey, give me Netflix over not being able to watch it. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we're able. I don't know. I feel like I'm basically able to watch 1 to 2 major league games a week. That's what I'm able to watch. And if it takes, I have a Netflix subscription. I have a Peacock subscription. I have, if you want to shift it to that, what I already have a subscription that I use for other things. then great. I'd rather have that than being guess what? If the one game you show me is the Yankees against I don't care. Like I don't want to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
last year we had been, of course, you could never find the Rangers on Bally Sports outside of DFW. I mean, you just couldn't do it. And so last year I broke down and when they went to Victory Plus, and I do have a Victory Plus subscription now. It's $100 a year, which I figure is, I mean, you can't get a ticket to one game for $100 a year, much less get to see all 162. And so it's been a good deal for me. I actually watched the Rangers, their exhibition last night against the Royals on Victory Plus. The thing with these subscription services is, when I first signed up for Netflix, Matt, I think I paid $6 a month. That was before, that was back when they had movies and some old TV shows on Netflix. Of course, now I believe I pay almost 30, a little bit over 30, maybe. So adding these things, of course, increases the cost. But I am with you. I just wish they could pick one or two and go with it, so I could decide which ones I want and can keep and get rid of. I mean, we have Amazon Prime, we have Peacock, we have Netflix, we have Hulu. I mean, we have them all.
Yeah.
And you have to nowadays. I'm actually paying more now for streaming services than I did for satellite TV, which was the whole idea of going to streaming. But anyway, that's a little rant, but all the way to get us back to opening day in baseball is finally here. It may be the final opening day we get to see for a while. Speaking of my Texas Rangers, they will be on the road on Thursday afternoon playing the Philadelphia Phillies, with the Astros at home on Thursday afternoon hosting the Angels. I'm going to have some projections tomorrow on tomorrow's show. It'll be really heavy on baseball. But yeah, we're going to talk about Rangers and Astros baseball tomorrow, Matt. So I know you'll be excited for that. Okay, so I've also asked you here during our Moneyball segment to bring your basketball knowledge to this. And you and I have kind of talked about this off and on about this great draft that's coming up in June in the NBA, which is why you see these historic levels of tanking going on. It's a race to the bottom for about 15 NBA franchises. Shout out to my Mavs last night for finding a way to lose, but making it look good and entertaining. But I believe they're in the 6th or 5th spot now. But anyway, as we've been doing all this talking about these prospects, as you stand here today, how would you rank the 1 through 5? If I'm a team that ends up in that lottery 1 through 5, how would you rank those players who are coming out in this draft class?
So I'm going to go a little controversial in 4 and 5. My number 5 is just because I think he's so good. He's not young. He's been, so he's not going to be taken top 5. I think somebody's going to be really happy with Yaxel Lindenberg of Michigan. I'm thinking somebody probably just outside the lottery. This is a 6'8" bruiser who can play physically inside and go pull you down 12 to 15 boards. He can knock down threes. He can handle the ball in a pinch. He's a guy that he does everything that you can ask for in the game, ranging from pretty good to very well. Everything, all of it. Most of these players have limitations, and so, because if you're 6'10", you're probably not a point guard. If you're 6'2", you're not going to post up, blah, blah, blah. So he's not going to be a lottery pick. He might be a lottery pick in the back end. He's certainly not going to be top 5, but I'm going to throw him in there. Number 4, I don't like to say it. I've watched too much of it. I'm putting Darren Peterson there. He's still ranked on number 1 on most draft boards. You're not going to get around the talent. You're just not. Is it reasonable and understandable if you have questions about his motor, his drive, his whatever? Sure, I get that. I do get that. But he is going to be drafted in the top 5, probably the top 3. So I feel pretty dumb if I don't put him in my top 5. He's number 4. Number 3 is going to be Acuff for me. He is really rising fast, But I will tell you right now, you have mentioned wanting the Mavs to get him or Debansa. Where the Mavs are right now is Acuff range. That's Acuff range. It's not. You want Debansa, you better get probably at least top 3, maybe top 2. Number 2 for me is Boozer. He's just really good. He comes from an NBA pedigree with his dad. He has all the tools. He's big and physical, but he's not awkward with the ball on the perimeter, and he can knock down shots. So he is my number 2, and my number 1 is Debansa. Just a he's probably for me the most physically gifted player in the draft, and so I'm going to have him my number 1.
Just to you, Thursday night when that game was going on, that's the first time I had seen him in a full game action. The way he plays his game, he reminds me a lot of a Kevin Durant at Texas.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying he is Kevin Durant, obviously, but he reminds me of that kind of game. He can do it all. It all, and he's a big dude. That's rare to see that. I would hope somehow he would fall to the Mavs, but I agree with you. I don't think they're gonna be anywhere near the territory it's gonna take to get him.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with Acuff though. I take Acuff on this team for sure. Back page portion of our program today. Matt, what you got for us on the back page?
Well, you kind of stole one of mine because I was going to talk about ETBU playing Laterno again. That's all right. It's all good. ETBU playing Laterno and softball this weekend and baseball tonight. I just hate that they're not in the same conference. I'm glad they're still playing each other. It doesn't fit to have those two teams not playing. So I'm glad that they still have them on the schedule for both sides of it. Those are. You hit the nail on the head earlier. It doesn't matter what sport. If it was basketball, men's or women's, if it was baseball, if it was softball, whatever it was, volleyball, ETBU Laterno was worth just sitting down and watching it. But I don't know if you saw this. This news broke while we were on the podcast, and it kind of ties into what you just had me talk about with the pros. Shams on ESPN has reported that Arkansas freshman star Darius Acuff Jr. has landed a signature shoe with Reebok, becoming the first NCAA men's athlete to receive one from a major U.S. brand while still in college. And I read that at first, and I thought it said he landed a shoe deal with Reebok, and I thought, you tell me no one else has had a shoe deal? No, he didn't land a shoe deal. He landed a shoe. Like, there is a Darius Acuff shoe that they are going to be making now, just like, you could buy Jordans or you could buy KDs or Kyries or whatever. So the first NCAA men's athlete to receive a shoe from a major U.S. brand goes to Arkansas's Darius Acuff. With all the talks we've had of NIL and everything, look, basketball players and shoes ever since Nike and MJ have just been kind of an iconic thing, right? Like you couldn't separate people. People would pay hundreds of dollars for a pair of so-and-sos. Because those shoes were named after their guy. And I have never wanted to buy a pair. I mean, I liked the way Jordans looked. I think I might have had a pair when I was younger, but I've never been that guy. I don't know. I might be becoming one now. Now with Acuff having this deal. But I thought it was kind of, you and I have talked a lot about NIL and kind of the shifting landscape of college sports. This is part of it, but I think it's a significant part of it. I think it's kind of a seismic part of it that a college basketball player now has his own shoe. I love that a Razorback was the first one to do it, which kind of feeds into what I talked about on what we were talking about. I think Acuff is shooting up draft boards. I think you now have this thing where you're not only drafting because of, look, you have to look at all facets of it, right? You want to draft a guy that's going to that's going to put butts in the seats, right? And so here's a guy that's suddenly becoming that. One of the comparisons that people have made that I don't know how I feel about it. A lot of people have compared Darius Acuff to Stephon Marbury, who, when he came out of high school into college and then in the draft, was the name that you talked about. Now, he never had the pro career I think anyone kind of was hoping for, but it's curious. I also read today that someone tweeted out, it was Carmelo Anthony, who said he's like this age of Stephon Marbury, talking about Acuff. Marbury himself responded and said he's better. He has the size that separates. So anyway, I thought that was really curious. I mean, this literally broke while we were talking about the on-campus segment. But I think that's a big deal. A college player getting a shoe, not a deal with a company, but getting his own shoe with a major brand. So that's my back page today.
And the longer Acuff plays in this tournament, I'm going to be afraid that he's going to fall out of the Mavs range unless we see a historic tank down the stretch by Dallas to get into that 3 to 4 range. And right now, I mean, they're doing their best, but they're not in 3 or 4. And I'm afraid that as this tournament goes on a national level, and folks begin to see more of Acuff. Of course, the NBA, he's not a surprise to the NBA. He's probably already got it sealed, but I'm afraid he may get up there in that Devanza territory before it's all said and done. I'm a little bit different than you. I actually have him probably ahead of Cam Boozer right now on my board. Just because of I think the importance of a point guard, particularly on a team that right now has a 34-year-old one with one good leg, is very valuable as opposed to another, post swing type guy that they already have in Cooper Flag. So,
well, and I don't like drafting Boozer for the Mavs. If we're talking about the Mavs specifically, I mean, Devanza's in my mind who you take if he's there. I don't care. I don't care if you. Well, I don't know.
That's anybody. If he's there,
need that. Everybody needs that.
Right.
But for the Mavs, I definitely like Acuff as a fit better than Boozer just because of the makeup of their team. I will say I saw a report that the Kings have circled Acuff as their main target, which makes me cringe a little bit. The Kings are they just don't have a history of success. I look at teams like that are in there, like the Jazz and like the Pacers, who I still think have a plan, even though it's kind of falling apart right now. I'd be happy with that. I don't think the Pacers would ever take him because they have Halliburton, but we'll see. Hey, don't sleep on the Mavs' ability to keep losing games. So we'll see. And last year,
doing it in a way that's very exciting.
They are.
Time last night, and
last year, my goodness, they were what, the worst odds to get the number 1 pick, and they got it. So
they did.
We'll see.
And that's something else. Has our luck run out? Quote luck, depending on who you believe about that whole deal. But anyway, I would love to see Acuff in a Mavs uniform, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for that, Matt. I have some different things here today, and I want to run through them here real quickly on my back page. If you recall in our notes I sent you, I had a section I wanted to do in high school, talking about the area high school coaching changes in football. I'm kind of itching to get back to football season as much as possible. But when I looked at that job, I was like, okay, that's a much bigger segment than we have time for. I didn't see this, and so I went to the source of everything Texas high school football, Matt Stepp from Dave Campbell's Texas Football on his Twitter page. And he posted yesterday that as of yesterday, there are up to 144 head football coaching jobs in Texas that are still open. Some of those are in our region that you and I cover here on the podcast, but 144 here in late March. Now I know sometimes you'll see a wave of these probably get filled from a school district administrative part probably by the end of April. the April school board meetings is usually when these things wrap up and recommendations are made. If you go past that, I mean, you're extending into a coach's time to get his team ready to play. And so I would think here over the next month or so, you'll start to see this 144 dwindle significantly. Just yesterday, we had a big one up in North Texas open up in Sherman. They reassigned their coach, and so that job is open.
Saw that.
So a lot of head football coaching jobs still open around the state, which kind of puts a kink in, trying to get a jump start and start previewing the season when you don't even know who some of these coaches are going to be. So that'll be interesting to watch here as we get into the spring. Did you see these 40 times that were run yesterday at some of these NFL pro days on campuses?
I did not.
There were a couple of them here that caught my eye, both of them cornerbacks, which of course Dallas is in need of a corner. Just about every level of their defense, basically, they have a need for in the draft. But one in particular is cornerback. Mansour Delane of LSU is the consensus top cornerback in this draft, expected to go anywhere from top 5 to top 15 within that range. Well, he's moved himself up a lot of draft boards after running a sub 4.3 time yesterday. It was 4.2 something. And then at pretty much the same time yesterday, Keontae Scott, who is probably ranked within the top 5 of this class as far as cornerbacks go in that grouping, he ran a 4.2 something. And so I heard many commentators believe after posting that yesterday with everything else they've seen from him at Miami's pro day, he may have improved himself a full round from a 3rd rounder to a 2nd rounder at least. And so I say all of that to say that it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, the Cowboys picked 12th. Some of these players that they really need, the Mansour Delanes, the Sonny Stiles, the Reuben Baines from Miami, I don't know that they're going to be there unless they man up and go move up and get them if they really want them and not trust that they're going to fall to them. Be interesting to see, as always, this time of year. I love NFL draft season. And on that note, just to remind everyone, I am going to unveil my own very rudimentary 1st-round mock draft on this Friday's show during Fast Break Friday. So that'll be fun. It'll be fun for me, at least, to put it together. I don't know if it'll be fun for folks listening, but it's kind of like filling out an NCAA bracket, Matt. I mean,
it is
kind of log it, whatever you get at the end, and then you just see how it works out. And I will preface this even more on Friday saying I haven't watched a lick of film on these players. I just kind of take what I hear from other places and then try to put myself in a scary position. That is Jerry Jones's shoes on draft night because, not a very good record, at least lately, with some things going on there. So, but we can always do it better, right? But anyway, that'll be coming up on Friday here on the Right Team podcast. And I'm going to kind of stray away from here in my closing back page thing here, man. I just wanted to, I'm a geek for history on the show. But did you realize this was a huge day in entertainment 21 years ago? Do you watch The Office?
I do.
On this date, 21 years ago, The Office premiered.
Wow.
And to me, that was a big deal. If you've listened to the podcast the last couple of days, I have started a new section on the podcast that I drop every morning. It's called The Right Team Daily. I was very tempted to include this as the headliner on The Right Team Daily today. I went with something else, but yeah, The Office premiered 21 years ago and changed the course of sitcom history. Depending on if you're a fan of The Office or not, it was either for good or for worse.
That's right.
But the original episode of The Office was pretty much a carbon copy of the British version. There was not a whole lot in there that was very controversial. They waited until the episode number 2, which was Diversity Day. Controversy.
That's so uncomfortable.
It's actually one of the most acclaimed episodes in history of TV, Diversity Day. But man, it opened some eyes. Let's just put it that way. This was some of the things, and that's even just the beginning of some things The Office touched and pushed the envelope on. But anyway, just wanted to mention that here on my back page. I literally just finished within the last couple of weeks another binge watching session of the show from seasons 1 through season 9. It bogs down, of course, in season 8 and 9 a little bit when Michael Scott leaves after season 7, but I powered through it, man, because there are some really, really good points in that show.
God, yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, this date in sports history. What a segue into this section, Matt. Just have a few handful of birthdays here to note. In 1951, on this date, Pat Bradley, who was a 6-time LPGA Majors champ in golf, was born. She turned 75 years old today, so happy birthday to Pat Bradley. This one's a big one here, 1976. I didn't even realize he was 50 years old. That seems awfully young, depending on how you watch him now. But Peyton Manning, this is his birthday, March 24th, 1976.
Wow.
Born on this day, but he turns 50 years old today. Seems like he's been around a lot longer than 50 years.
It does.
In the NFL Hall of Fame. Do you watch the Manning cast on Monday Night Football? We may have talked about this in football season.
We have. That's typically where I go. Not always, but that's usually what I'm going to go to.
Really entertaining. So he and Eli have something going
fascinating
on there, but you don't realize that when he gets away from it. Peyton Manning is a pretty entertaining individual because he doesn't take himself very seriously. That's part of it.
Right.
Another birthday today I wanted to mention. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not really famous for anything much at this point in his career. But Damar Hamlin. Remember Damar Hamlin?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was born on this date in 1998, which makes him 28 years old today. But anyway, Damar Hamlin was born today, but everyone remembers him, of course, as a couple years ago. He was the one, of course, who collapsed on Monday Night Football, playing for the Buffalo Bills, had a heart problem. That was very shocking, just very scary thing to see on national television. Kind of captivated the nation. And, of course, he was back the next season, clearance to play, and is still playing in the NFL. And I just thought with his birthday today, I just thought that was a neat thing to mention, the fact that he's still here and going strong.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was actually not watching that game, and I believe I saw things start to come across on Twitter or something, and I went and watched it. And to this day now, I cannot watch the footage of him actually falling. It's such a scary thing. But he's still with us. So, the Lord's grace, again, another example of that for Damar Hamlin.
I was definitely watching that one. I'll tell you, that was
saw it live?
A wild scene. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
it
you
was
saw it
crazy.
live. It kind of reminded me a little bit. Obviously, not thankfully as serious. But were you watching live when Hank Gathers collapsed?
No, I was a little too young, but I do remember that. I've seen the video footage.
That was very frightening as well.
Really frightening.
For that one, for folks who don't remember Hank Gathers at Loyola Marymount collapsing in the middle of, I believe it was a conference tournament game.
No, I think it was towards the end of the season. It might have been. I don't remember for sure, but yeah.
The whole Bo Kimball shooting left-handed free throws the rest of the season.
Oh, yes. If you weren't rooting for Loyola, something was wrong with you. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah,
they were America's team, that NCAA tournament run for sure. Final word today comes from 2 Peter 3, verse 9. It says, "The Lord does not delay his promise, as some understand delay, but he is patient with you, not wanting any to perish, but all to come to repentance." If you're wondering why God hasn't moved yet in your life, remember this. His delay is often his mercy. He's giving people time to turn to him. God's heart is for all people, and his timing always will reflect that. He's Matt, and I'm David, and this is from the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. Thank you all for listening and supporting our show from here in the heart of the East Texas Piney Woods. As always, you can help us out by liking and subscribing to our podcast wherever you find us, as always, which is on our YouTube channel, the Right Team Podcast. Be sure to follow us also on Facebook, where we also post our content, provide other information that we might not necessarily get to here on the podcast. Again, we have tonight's baseball and softball schedules up for East Texas. We're just getting started with other content, aka the Right Team Daily, that will have something for everyone. So make sure you do not miss an episode. And how do you do that? You do that by subscribing. And so it gets sent right immediately to your inbox or to your cell phone whenever we drop an episode. Also, once again, as we close out, big thank you to our podcast sponsors, Stiles Electric, East Texas Baptist University, and Right Team Services for your faithful support. We'll be back with another episode of From the Press Box tomorrow. Until then, for Matt, this is David. Have a great Tuesday. Enjoy another blessed day. And as always, keep writing your story.
This episode of the Right Team Podcast is also brought to you by Stiles Electric of East Texas. For over 25 years, Stiles Electric has been providing reliable, professional electrical installation and repair service all throughout East Texas and beyond. Whether it is a small residential issue or a major commercial project, Stiles Electric provides you with the same professional service they've built their reputation on. Contact Stiles today at 903-236-2536 for all of your electrical service needs. That's Stiles Electric. Reliable, professional, and experienced.
Connecting students to their passion and equipping them for their purpose. East Texas Baptist University is a Christ-centered institution committed to challenging and encouraging each student in mind, body, and spirit. With over 45 undergraduate programs and 14 master's degrees, ETBU's educational experience enables you to discover your purpose, find your path, and pursue your calling. Join the Tiger family today. It's not too late. Apply today at etbu.edu/apply.
Did you know that someone somewhere is talking about you? Yes, your school district, your business, your church, your nonprofit group is always the subject of a conversation somewhere. Maybe it's Facebook gossip, maybe it's talk around the water cooler, maybe it's written in a newspaper or a blog somewhere. At Right Team Services, we work with you to manage that conversation more effectively, to give all of your stakeholders an opportunity to hear your message. We help you create a culture of transparency in your organization that makes your customers and stakeholders feel comfortable as part of the story, and as a result, will help your business or school district become a more effective, trusted member of your community. Contact me today at rightteamservices@gmail.com to learn more about how Right Team can help you tell your story.